Hello! In this video, I'm going to demonstrate for you the concepts of the various joins we're learning in Chapter 26, and those are known as inner, left, right, and full. First, let's take a look at the two tables that we're working with. On the left, we have the health table, and it contains the following variables: subject, and for each subject, the height and the weight. On the right, we have our demographic table, and it also contains a subject variable, but it contains different information from the first table. It contains a date of birth, or DOB, gender, and name. And notice that these lists of subjects aren't exactly the same. Some of the subjects match, but not all of them. In the left, we have subjects 1, 3, 4, and 5. On the right, we have 1, 2, 3, and 5. All right, now that we're familiar with the individual tables, let's talk about our various joins. And I've got a rectangle for each row in the table so that I can move it around. And I've color-coded these to match the Venn diagrams I have in the notes, where the health was the blue circle and the demographic was the red circle. Now for the inner join, which is probably the most common join, we are looking for our subject numbers to match between the two tables. So let's take a look here. I've got a 1 here and a 1 there. Ooh, good, match. Let's stick those together. I have a 3 here and a 3 there. Those match. This 2 doesn't match anything. I'm going to discard that. And I'm going to stick these 3s together. Actually, I'm going to move it a little bit farther over. 4. I don't have a match for that in the other table, so I'm going to discard that. And then the 5s match. So my resulting table for my inner join will have these 3 rows where the subject numbers from the health table match the subject numbers in the demographic table. Now, as far as the code is concerned to produce this table, that's found in your textbook and in the PowerPoint, but let's run it. We have a Proc SQL statement. We can pronounce that as Proc SQL. Then we have one great big long statement with a few different clauses in it. We have our select clause, where we list the variables we want. And because we have a variable with the same name in both tables, we distinguish between them. And we've done that here with an alias. And we need to tell SAS the tables we're looking in to retrieve these variables, and that's listed in a from clause. And we specify the type of join we are doing. When we specify that, we also have an on clause, which is very similar to a where statement in a data step. And what we want is for the subject in the health table to be the same or equal the subject in the demographic table. And then we close this step with a quit statement, not a run statement. All right, I've already run my live name statement and I've generated the health and the demographic tables so that I can go ahead and run this chunk of code. And when I do, I get the same 3 rows that I showed you in the illustration. Now, because we listed this subject and then the other subject first and second, that's how they're showing up in our results table. But if we look at the way I have them here, this subject and this subject are not right next to each other. Hopefully that's not confusing to you. Now let's move on to a left join. I'm going to rearrange these again. So move this back down, bring my discarded row back over, and I'll bring this discarded row back over. Whoops. Now for a left join, we look at the left table, which is our health table. We want to keep all of these rows and then retrieve the information from the other table where we have a match for our subject. So let's see, do we have a match for subject 1? Yes, we do. Good. So now we don't just have height and weight, we also have date of birth, gender, and name. 3. Yes, I've got a match. Now this doesn't match anything in my left table. I'm going to discard it again. And this stays in my left join. This stays as well. Even though we don't have date of birth, gender, and name for it, those will just be empty fields in my results. It remains in my left join. And then I've got the 5s that match. So my resulting table from a left join should look like this. Let's run that code. And here we go. See line 4 where we don't have certain variables showing up? Now let's do a right join. So again, let me bring back what I had originally. For a right join, I want to keep everything in the right table and then grab the rows from the left table that match what I have in the right. So here's a match. Here's a match. Here's a match. This gets discarded. Notice for subject 2, I don't have a height and a weight, so those will be left blank in my results, but this is what my right join would look like. And I won't rerun that code. You can do that on your own. Now let's look at a full join. For a full join, we want all of the information, but of course, where we have matches, we want those to be all in one row. So we've got this match for the 1. We don't have a match for the 2. So I'm going to move this up, and it's just going to have some blank information in the left. I have my 3. I have a match for it. Good. I've got a 4. Oops, no match, so I'm going to have some blanks for that row. And I've got a match for my 5s. So this would be my resulting table for a full join. All right, now just as a reminder, I want to show you what happens when you try to select from 2 tables in Proc SQL, but you don't specify a join or a where clause. What will happen is you'll get a Cartesian product. And what happens with a Cartesian product is you get all possible combinations between the rows you have in the left table and the rows you have in the right table. And it's hard for me to illustrate that here, but what we would have is a row matching subject 1 from the left with subject 1 from the right, another one for 1 from the right, 1 from the left, 2 from the right, 1 from the left, 3 from the right, 1 from the left, 5 from the right. Then we go to the next row, which is subject 3, and we match it to each row in the right, and we take the next row from the left and match it with each row on the right. And you can see we'd end up with a very large table. We'd end up with, in this case, 4 times 4, which is 16. We get 16 rows in our table. Not very useful, but the joins that we already went through are pretty useful, and I hope that this video has helped you with your understanding of them.